high school, a Heisman Trophy winner in Michigan, and a Super Bowl MVP in the NFL. But the foundation was laid with men just like you. You don't know how important you are and just how critical you are to the mentorship, not just coaching, but the mentorship to these young men who are under your thumb every time you go out in the practice field. And they don't know it either, because I didn't know. And through all my successes on every level that I played, I've always reflected though on those days that I played Muni League football. Because in my opinion, let me give you a little history about it. Where I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, there was a Muni League team that was maybe 3 blocks from my house. Now I grew up with all my buddies. We would go play sandlot football together. We went to elementary school together. But there was another team that was 3 times the distance from my house that I thought was a better team. I thought had better coaches. So as opposed to follow all my buddies in the neighborhood, I'm talking about guys who lived on my street, guys who lived around the block, and just walk to this other team and go play for that team, I would get on my bike and ride clear across town to play for a team that I thought was a better team. I thought had better coaches. It would give me a better chance to succeed. That was a tough decision because peer pressure is very, very strong at a young age. But I did that because I thought they would prepare me for what I wanted to do in the future. Now, I didn't know what the future held for me. But I knew that this team was better than my neighborhood team. I did know that. And I always wanted to play for the best team. I always wanted to get the best coaching. So I used to ride my bike across town. Didn't know any kids over there. Not one kid did I know. I would ride my bike over there, and I would go over there and compete. I would compete every day. When we finally won the city championship, it was one of the greatest feelings that I ever had. But what led to the city championship is what I really reflect on. The hard work that this coaching staff put us through. The mentorship. They were more than coaches to us. And now, people always talk about father figures, and I'm one of those who I don't use that because I didn't need one. Because my father was in my life. He was in my life in a big way. So I don't say, oh, this guy's a father figure, but I understand there are kids who need father figures. And they may lean on some of you for that. That's where your mentorship role comes into play. Even though my father was in my life, I mean, that's my man. You know, he was at every practice and all that. I saw the kids who didn't have that. And it helped me appreciate what I did have. But now that I'm older, I even appreciate more the role that you guys had in those kids' lives who didn't have fathers. And that's why I talk about the mentorship. You know, you have to lead by example. So once I left that football program, that foundation in my eyes was so strong. I had a work ethic in my eyes that was better than any other kids I was going to compete against at the high school level. That once I went to high school, clear across town, same situation. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, went to Cleveland St. Joe's. I used to have to catch the bus 2 hours to get from my house to school. Didn't know anybody over there. I came to St. Joe's in the 10th grade. It starts in the 9th grade. All these other kids knew each other from their freshman year. I didn't know not one soul over there. But I went over there and I competed because my foundation was strong. My foundation was strong, like I said, because of my dad, and then athletically because of men like you who are sitting in this room. I cannot stress the importance that you have in these young men's lives and the foundation that you're setting. I don't even know if you realize it. But my coach, my Muni League coach, we're still in contact with each other today. That's how important that relationship is to me. I want him to know that he was the guy who prepared me for a legendary coach at St. Joe's, who prepared me for another legendary coach at Michigan. See, I can sit here and give you guys all the stories, all the anecdotes, about playing for Bo Schembechler, and Bo Schembechler was a hell of a coach. But even before it was Bo Schembechler, I had a Muni League coach who prepared me for what he was going to put me up against, for what he was going to do to me. So my point to you today is, and I know we're going to open the floor up for Q&A, is that what you're doing to these young men's lives is very, very important. The way you affect them affects our communities. It's going to affect them long term. You have to walk the walk. You just can't talk the talk. One thing that made my community coaches so effective is that we understood they cared about us. I have no problem with tough love. That's how my father raised me. That's how my coaches coached me. From my Muni League coaches up to Bo Schembechler. We were scared. I mean, as a freshman, I was terrified of Bo Schembechler just because of the media representation of that man. But the reason that any of us who played for him would run through a brick wall for him was because he was mean and we were scared of him. It's because we knew this man had our best interests at heart. We knew he cared about us and he wanted the best for us. And whatever he did was directed in getting the best out of us. Your athletes have to feel the same way about you. And if you can't do that, you probably need to let it alone. Because it ain't cut out for everybody. Just like I tell people, listen, playing football, it ain't cut out for everybody. It's a hard hustle. Coaching may not be cut out for you too. If you can't do these things to help mold and mentor our young men. So, with that being said, and I can talk about that for a long time, but I understand you guys got a short lunch break and you want to get back to listen to teach you about running routes and stuff like that. So I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that you may have for me about anything. Who wants to be the first one to ask a question? Young man right there.
Okay, ain't nobody saying nothing. I'm gonna speak up. Okay, your kick return against Ohio State is probably one of my favorite moments in football. My question to you: did the thought go through your mind before that game that I have to do something fantastic? If I do something fantastic, I'm opposed. Or was it when you actually caught the ball and you seen you was free?
Right.
During that moment,
right.
When did you realize you was going to make a statement for the world?
Well, this is what happened. I'm going to take you through it. I'm going to take you through it. Like I said, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. So that in and of itself should let you know that I got to do something special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the biggest rivalry in college football. I'm from Ohio. If I score today on national TV against those dudes, I got to do something special. Now that summer, I have been dating this gymnast, and she was fine, but she told me. so she taught me how to do a backflip. I always thought it would be the coolest thing to get like to about the 1.5 yard line and do a backflip into the end zone. Now you see guys score a touchdown and they do a backflip after they score, but I want to be a guy who actually flips into the end zone. I thought it would be the coolest thing. So anyway, so now we're playing the Buckeyes, biggest rivalry in college football and all sports, and I'm a Heisman candidate. So during the year, they have some teammates who say, you got to do something special, you got to do something, significant. I'm like, nah, because I was a front runner. But, Michigan, we don't do that. We always just hand the ball to the ref and we keep it going. We do it the Barry Sanders way, you know what I'm saying? So I said, listen, this is Ohio State. I'm from Ohio. If I get in there today, I got to do something significant. Now, Ohio State was playing a defense that they kept the safeties back like they was returning punts. They were determined not to let me catch a touchdown. So I made some plays, but I wasn't getting off like I wanted to get off. So what happened was actually a punt return. So now they're kind of near midfield, and the general rule of thumb, you guys know that they're punting towards your end zone. You tell your returner to put his heels on the 10-yard line. The ball's going over his head, you let it go over your head. We get it on the 20, hopefully, unless it hits and dies. But normally, it'll bounce in the end zone, you get it on the 20. Well, my heel's on the 10. I'm kind of, not getting off the way I want to go. I got some plays, but I haven't done anything big yet. So I'm slightly frustrated. So the ball's in the air, and I start to retreat. Now I got a decision to make. Am I going to gamble? Am I going to roll the dice and catch this thing? Or am I going to let it bounce to the end zone? Well, once I start to retreat, and I decide I'm going to catch it, I'm committed. I'm all in. I got to make something happen. Because if I don't, if I catch this thing at the 7, because it's a 93-yard punt return, so if I catch it at the 7, I get tackled at the 8, the 9, the 10, the 12. Anything short of the 20, you in
trouble.
I got some questions to ask when I get back to the sideline, you know what I mean? So now I'm committed. So I catch it, and you know, my instincts took me to break a few tackles. Then I saw the punter. So I saw the punter, and I break to my left towards Ohio State sideline. And now, I promise you, the whole time I'm thinking, am I going to do a backflip? The whole time. I mean, it seemed like a long time to me, you know, and I'm going back and forth in my head. So I get to I probably get to about the 5, and I pretty much chickened out. Because I'm like, if I do a backflip now, screw it up, I'm on sports center for the wrong thing. So I got in the end zone, I did the pose. That's how it unfolded. Any more questions? Young man in the black hat?
Yeah, I got a question.
Here's the poll.
Watching the older films, I should see that you and Gerback would be in the sidelines while the other Michigan players were playing on the field. I think it could have been your freshman year. I think you and Gerback came in the same year, right?
Correct.
Freshman.
Yep.
So how many seasons did you actually sit before you actually got on the field? But I know it had to be these.
Yeah, his question is how many seasons I said. When I got to Michigan, I redshirted my freshman year.
Okay.
I came in, I was a tailback to high school, like I said, and then they switched me to wide receiver. And they had Greg McMurtry, Chris Calloway, and John Colasar. They were the wide receivers.
Right.
No one was going to play. You know what I mean? So I redshirted that year. And what happened was, like I said, I switched to wide out. So I learned my craft from them. I learned how Michigan wants you to run routes. I learned the route tree, the way he wants you to run routes, the way he wants you to block. Blocking was a huge thing for us, huge. And it's stuff I didn't do a lot of in high school because I ran the ball. I was a tailback. So anyway, so I learned my craft through those 3 players. And then once I got comfortable, I was able to add my own personality to the position. So the first year I redshirted, and then I played 3 more years. So I played 3 seasons. I was in Michigan for 4 years, and I graduated in 4 years.
Good.
Young man with the Clemson looking outfit on back there.
Hey, Coach Tom not here, but he told me to ask you this question.
Tell Tom, if you want to ask questions, you need to be here. If you're not here, you can text me his questions.
He said, what happened to those 6-pack of socks you wore on that picture in JD living room?
6-pack of socks.
In JD living room. He said you was gonna laugh. That's what he said.
Tell Tom he got the laugh that he was looking for. Next question. The young man in the back, the glasses on hat.
This is a 2-part question. How did it feel to come back to Detroit, your second home, to play for the Lions and be a player for Michigan? The second question was, does Brett Favre throw as hard as people say?
Brett Favre throw as hard as he, is that what you said? Did Brett Favre throw as hard as people thought he did?
Yeah.
Well, I answered the last question first. Yeah, Brett Favre would dislocate your fingers at any moment. Brett threw very, very hard. And coming back to Detroit, actually, it was great. It was an honor to come back to Detroit. You know, the circumstances in which I came back to Detroit were actually very exciting, to be honest with you. They had a defensive back here named Terry Fair, and Terry Fair also returned punts. And I had dislocated my finger up in, actually both of my ring fingers up in Green Bay. And so we had some issues up there. So Terry Fair, I guess, went out like a Saturday night, I think it was. No, it must have been a Friday night. I don't know, he went out one of those nights, Terry Fair went out, must have been Friday night, I think he went out, something happened, alcohol may have been involved, he hurt himself, and I got a call from the Lions. Next thing you know, Sunday morning, the Lions were playing the Washington Redskins, fighting for a playoff spot. They put me back there, number 18. People didn't even know I signed with the Lions. Next thing you know, I took a punt for a touchdown, and everybody knew I was with the Lions. So it was pretty exciting. It was pretty exciting. But it felt great to come back here because it's like my second home. And I love Detroit. I love this organization and what they represent, and what they're trying to do. So it was an honor to come back here and play. And even despite what people don't understand, like despite the fantastic year I had in Green Bay, the year we won the Super Bowl, I wasn't actually voted to the Pro Bowl that year. I was voted to the Pro Bowl as a Detroit Lion. Questions? Young man in red over here.
When did you know, or did it click to you that you could actually make it to the NFL? And what was that feeling like to know, like, I'm actually gonna be playing on TV in the NFL?
This question was, when did I know I would make it to the NFL and how did it feel? And, you know, as a young man, I grew up watching Tony Dorsett. I was a big Dallas Cowboys fan. And I loved the NFL. I was much more of an NFL fan than I was college football. Loved the NFL. And the NFL was bigger than college football now. That college football is huge, but not that it's bigger than the NFL, but it was such a great disparity between college football and NFL then. And so I thought that I wanted to be like Dorsett. And kids grow up with dreams and ambitions, you know, we have heroes. But as I grew older and I started to see things, I didn't know how realistic it was. And I thought maybe I have the talent, but there are things that happen in football that you just can't control. And so, like when I was playing Little League, Muni League football, you know, I was one of the kids going through the same things that some of your players are going through. You know, whether it was drugs, whether it was gangs, whatever the case may be. Those are things I was going through. And what happened was I started to understand how making the right decisions would help separate me from guys who were maybe just as talented or more talented than me. So guys who I played Community League football with, I wasn't always the best player on my team. But these guys, maybe they didn't go to school. Maybe they didn't make the grades. Maybe they'd rather chase girls than practice. Maybe they'd rather get affiliated with a gang. So these decisions that they made, as crazy as it seemed, opened up more opportunities for me who made better decisions. So they would fall by the wayside as I would always keep climbing and climbing and climbing. So now I would go back to Cleveland. Like I said, I'm in Michigan. I go back to Cleveland, and I would see these same guys who I played Community League football with, you know, making comments and making excuses. And like I said, my dad is my man. And if you want to piss my father off, all you have to do is say, man, that Desmond sure is lucky. Lucky? Lucky is you hopping in a cab and it's a knapsack with $1 million in it. That's lucky. Now, my father would tell you, Desmond worked his ass off. Desmond made right decisions. Desmond didn't go to his prom because Desmond wanted to run the regional track meet the next day. So he would have a chance to run the state track meet. Desmond made sacrifices. There wasn't no luck involved. So these other kids, but they made the decisions they made. And it opened up doors and opportunities for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I made the right decisions. And those are things that I would press upon you to like instill in these young men. It's about the decisions that they make. Especially when they're away from you. When they're not under your thumb. When they're not in your vision. That's what's going to determine how successful they are. Going to class. Not affiliating with gangs. Not out there hanging out at the malls or hanging out wherever these kids hang out at now. No, doing the right thing. That's what's going to contribute to their success. So, you know, I tried to do the right thing, but there's things I couldn't control. We had a guy on our team. I'm in Michigan. I saw 2 guys go down. We had a tailback named Tony Bowles. Yep. Tony Bowles was awesome. Oh, man. Tony Bowles was awesome. Oh, my God. I had never seen a running back like that in my life. Tony Bowles went down with a knee injury. Bam. I was young. I'm like, wow. You know, this stuff ain't guaranteed to nobody. Maybe a year later, the best defensive player I ever played with was a guy named Triff Wellborn. The best I've ever played with. He went down with a knee injury. I said, this ain't guaranteed to nobody. And he's gonna get a shot, but he ain't the same Triff. So at that point, like I said, now these things, it ain't about just my talent. The other things that that factor in, I need to prepare myself in case this doesn't happen. So I thought I was talented enough to play in the NFL, but there were other things that could happen that could prevent me from getting that opportunity. So that's my point to you. I had two prime examples when I was in Michigan, Tony Bowles and Tripp Wellborn. And like I said, Tripp got that opportunity, but he wasn't the same Tripp after he had that knee injury. I mean, he was hands down the best defensive player I ever played with. Not even close.
Last question.
Right.
No man, Wayne.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you kept yourself motivated during your your freshman year or rookie year in the NFL, being that you had receivers that were Hall of Famers in front of you, and then sometimes when you was on the field and I was watching you, the commentator would say he's too small, he can't get off the bump, and going from that person to now being an MVP and making great strides in the NFL. How did you continue to motivate yourself when all the naysayers make it saying, well, he just one-time wonder. He was great in high school, college, but he's not an NFL player.
Right. I don't know if you guys heard the question back there, but his question was how did I keep myself motivated, especially my rookie year when I was in Washington and things weren't going well. We got to keep in mind, like when I was drafted by the Redskins, they traded up to get me. They just won the Super Bowl. They beat the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. They were bringing back all three of their wilds. They had Art Monk, Gary Clark, and Ricky Sanders. These are three wilds. They just won the Super Bowl. Yeah. So, despite what all the pundits and the analysts and all the experts were saying, Joe Gibbs didn't bring me in there to be that guy, not off the bat. He got all three of his guys returning. He just won a Super Bowl with. So in my eyes, he brought me in there to learn from them. Kind of like how when I went to Michigan, I learned from John Colasar, Greg Mercury, and Chris Callaway. Their top three wideouts. So that was like, to me, my role that rookie year. And then do some special team stuff. I had a great special teams mentor in Brian Mitchell. Brian Mitchell's a hell of a player. Hell of a player. One of the best. So anyway, but then things fell apart. Joe Gibbs burned out. He used to sleep in the office. I mean, dude, he didn't take his job home. He just didn't go home. And so he burned out. And he burned out, and then, then everything kind of crumbled for the most part. They hired the defensive coordinator. He became the head coach. That didn't work out. And then they brought in San Diego's coach. What's the guy's name?
Turner.
North Turner. They brought North Turner in there. He didn't work. I mean, he worked out better. But anyway, so things wasn't good there. And I never thought it was just me. You know what I'm saying? So I always was motivated. I knew that given the opportunity, given the right situation, I would be able to flourish. And you just gotta stay. I guess I've always had a burning desire inside me. Like I said, to compete. Like I said, maybe it's from when I was a kid. I didn't want to go to the community league around the corner, even though it was convenient, and my boys were there. I went to the one clear across town because I wanted to be better. I wanted to get the best coaching I could get. And then, like I said, I didn't go to the neighborhood high school with my buddies. I went clear across town, took a bus 2 hours, took 3 buses, 2-hour trip to St. Joe. So I've always had that in me to compete and to be the best. And I used to tell people when I was in Michigan, those who control your happiness controls your sorrow. So I can't let these people, what they're writing about me in the papers, these magazines about me, make me happy. That's controlling, making me happy, because if they start writing the opposite, then they'll make me sad. They'll control, you know what I'm saying? So I can't let them control my motivation and my emotions. So I've never been like that type of guy. So I've always been pretty much self-motivated. And then I always wanted to do things like to make my father happy, my father proud. And so I think that's kind of like, I hope that answers your question. What kept me positive, what kept me motivated. I had a mentor who kept me positive. I would talk to my community league coaches. They have all the faith in the world and confidence in the world in me, and they tell me what I can do. And I had a mentor at Michigan too named Greg Harden, who also was a very, very positive influence in my life. So I had guys who were positive and kept me motivated, but I had a lot in me too that self-motivation that kept me going. Plus, like I said, once you in the situation, I mean, you in it, you live it, you see it. So I understood what was going on around me. This was much bigger than me. This whole organization was crumbling apart from the inside out because of what happened. Like I said, just won a Super Bowl with Joe Gibbs, but that next year he completely burned out. And then it just wasn't a good situation. It really hasn't been the same since, to be honest with you. All right, well,
How you pick Michigan over Ohio State?
that's a no-brainer. You can't. I'm gonna tell you, my senior year in high school was the year that Ohio State fired Earl Bruce, and they were bringing in John Cooper. And I remember telling my dad, I said, Ohio State's off the table. He said, why? I said, because they're bringing in this new head coach from like Arizona, somewhere out west. We don't know anything about him. I don't know what type of system he's bringing to Columbus. I don't know how he may want to use, my counter. So I don't want to be part of a rebuilding program. Right. So the first time I stepped foot in Columbus was an amazing blue uniform. Hey guys, thank you very much for being a great audience.
Now let us get the close.
I sincerely hope that something that I said really sticks with you when you guys leave for the day. Thank you.
Coaches, get out your red wrap. We'll take a tribute to the raffle real quick, and then we're going to head out to the field to stay on schedule. Your red.